Hello everyone, welcome back to Black Heaven, a necromantic dating sim. Let's go ahead and continue. Finally, the lantern sparks back to life. You look around and find the broken, ruined towers of Lazula looming over you. The warm glow of your memories fades, leaving you alone again. Shattered, decaying shops and mansions stretch up and down the street, and piles of broken furniture litter the ground around you. You peer up and down the street, casting around your lantern's light to try and get your bearings. You spot a familiar building ahead, the Grand Bank of Lazula. That means you're getting close to the grand staircase, and closer to getting out the underground. You take a step forward and feel something beneath your boot. You kneel down to pick up a tarnished silver necklace, then let it drop to the ground again. You're standing amidst the wreckage of 1,000 lives, maybe 10,000. This is all it adds up to, think bitterly. Dust and trash, all the warmth fades, and so do the people. Until all that's left are the memories. While you work your way toward the north edge of the city, you start finding piles of furniture. Towers of chairs are precariously arranged in 20-foot columns, and tables of different sizes are stacked even higher. The more piles you find, the more you become sure that they're not the work of human hands. Your suspicions are confirmed a few minutes later when you find a rotting wooden wall studded with thousands of nails. You look closer and find that the nails are clustered in some places and spread out over others. You take a few steps back and recognize the silhouette of a person's warped face in the arrangement of the nails. It's unmistakably the work of a ghost. You look around. There's nothing moving around you. You dim your lantern and start walking away quickly. You pull back your sleeve and mark this point in time, the way Noah showed you. After that, you walk on, your eyes moving over the shadows at the edge of your lantern light. From what you know, something changes in a person when they die. Some scholars describe it like breaking a mirror. All the pieces of a person are still there, but they're spiderwebbed with cracks. Most ghosts can't remember who they are, or even put together jumbled memories. Instead, they latch onto a few of them. Ghosts obsess over echoes of things from their past lives, driven by old guilt, lust, or regrets that they can't articulate. They spend hours counting things over and over, or having the same conversations with someone who isn't there. It's not accurate to call them insane. A better word might be inhuman. Their minds don't function the same as a mortal's. Still, you can recognize patterns in what they do. Some scholars knew how to speak to them, exorcise them, or seal them away. But that was a different kind of study. The most important thing to know about ghosts, you are told, is that they are all searching to fill a hole in themselves. Some try to fill it by collecting things, trinkets, jewelry, so on. Others try to fill the hole by eating huge amounts of food, or other ghosts. Many of them would try to possess people to replace their own lost bodies, but some of them would try to take out your organs. They couldn't understand that taking someone's blood and flesh would make them alive again. All you know is that you dreaded meeting one down here. When you get a good distance away from the towers of furniture, you kneel down and set your lantern on the ground to add more oil to it. As you look around, you spot another point of light in the distance, far down the street. You pick up your lantern and walk toward it, trying to peer at the source of light. You realize that it's tinted blue, which makes you nervous. As you walk closer, you see that the light is hovering over a shape on the ground, a body. When you come close enough to get a good look at the light, it suddenly goes out. You freeze in place and swivel your head, looking for any trace of movement. Something luring you in. A minute passes, then another. Nothing moves. Maybe I scared it off. Whatever it was. You inch closer to the body and see that this kid dressed in fine jacket and pants. Their hair is mostly fallen out, but what remains is white. He's now wearing a filter mask. You crouch down and look over the decaying skin stretched across the corpse's face. Black cancer spots spread across the cheeks, wrapping around the eyes and ears. What catches your eye is a clean, coin-sized hole in the side of their head. You glance down and find a wheel-lock pistol resting in the corpse's limp hand. In the middle of the street? Why do it here? You lift the wheel-lock pistol and examine it. It's covered in dust, but serviceable. In fact, it looks like the kind of carried by rich folk. You can spot gold and silver fittings. After a quick rummage through Corpse's pockets, you find a handful of bullets and a folded letter. When you open the letter, you feel a chill sweep across your body, as if the air around you has dropped by 20 degrees. A warped, whispering sound grows louder, and you feel the cold air gather behind you. You turn around just in time to watch something tall and lanky coalesce out of the shadows and stand over you. Don't touch me. In your panic-stricken mind, one word comes to the surface. Ghost. Don't touch me. Sorry. I'll leave you alone. Sorry. You're a thief, aren't you? A robber. I can tell. You smell like a thief. You stole my ring. You took it from me. I didn't take your ring. The ghost grabs you by the shoulders and draws you close, sniffing at you. Blood, paper, ink. You're not a thief, you're a scholar. Can you read? Can you read words? Yes, I can read. Read this letter. The ghost grabs the letter out of your hands and hastily unfolds it and puts it back in your hands. Read it to me. Go on, read it. It's agitated. What the letter pisses off more. You try to speak slowly and reassuringly to calm the ghost down. Before I read this, I want to know, what is it? Who is it from? I don't know. I don't remember. But I know it's important. I can't read it anymore. I remember how it starts, but I don't know how it ends. If I read this letter, will you let me go on my way? Yes, just read the letter and I'll know. Read it to me. Just read it to me out loud. You look over the letter and find that part of it is smudged beyond legibility. Water has wrinkled it and caused the ink to bleed. Some parts are legible, however. You can barely make out the body of the text. Alright, let me read it. You hold up your lantern to get a better look at the smudged words. All I can read is a few paragraphs. You were one of my earliest friends here, and I haven't forgotten all you've done for me. I have a lot of respect for you, and yes, I have wondered if we could be more than just friends. You're intelligent, ambitious, and well-connected. But I realize now that I have to follow my heart. I deeply appreciate the kindness you've shown me, and the earnestness that comes with offering me your ring, but I can't. The rest is eligible. That's all. That's all I can read. The ghost grips your arms tightly and stares into your eyes. Its empty eye sockets fixed on yours. Suddenly it lets out an inhuman scream. You feel it wrench your arms in different directions, pulling so hard that it seems in your jacket split. A rush of hot, searing pain fills your muscles, and you gasp as your shoulders pop out of their joints. The ghost keeps screaming, crescendoing higher and higher until its height and keening. All I can focus on is the pain as your skin begins to tear and twist under the ghost's grip. There's a wet ripping sound, and you feel a rush of warm blood pouring on the stumps where your arms used to be. Your mind desperately tries to recall a spell No Eyes taught you to turn back time, but you can't focus on the syllables. You collapse to the ground, still bleeding from your stumps. You try to take full deep breaths, but your vision is swimming in blurred shadows. The ghost crouches down and digs its hands into your ribcage, splitting open your chest. For a moment, you're reminded of the deer you watched Lise open with her knife. Deer hearts and human hearts are almost the same, you remember her saying. You black out as the ghost's hand wraps around your lungs. The last thought you have before you lose consciousness is how quick it would be to press the barrel of that pistol to your head. When you open your eyes again, you're back in the streets of Lazula. You glance around and see the familiar stacks of chairs and tables, then sigh. God, it's like waking up from a nightmare. You immediately start walking down a different route, away from the street that led to the corpse. Then you stop. The memory of the pain is still seared into you, and it makes you shiver. What if my throat is cut and my mouth is filled with ash? I can't speak the words of the Necromantic spell. Or what if I make a mistake that I don't realize till later? I need a way out. Quick, painless. Then you remember staring into the black abyss of No Eyes' pistol barrel. I need this pistol. You start to walk down the same route as before, passing the face made of nails, stacks of furniture, and the empty doorways. You spot the same lantern light you saw before. The shiver runs down your body as you remember the feeling of blood rushing from your arms. You take a deep breath and walk closer to the corpse and crouch down to take the pistol and bullets. Again, you feel the air grow cold and feel something gathering behind you. You stifle the terror in your stomach and breathe deeply, the way Izagi taught you. When you turn around, the ghost's face is close to yours. Don't touch me. Sorry, I didn't mean to upset you. You're a thief, aren't you? Robber. I can tell the smell of the thief. You stole my ring. You took it. You took it from me. No, I didn't. The ghost grabs you by the shoulders and draws you close, sniffing at you. Blood, paper, ink. You're not a thief, you're a scholar. Can you read? Yes, I can read. Read this letter. The ghost digs into the pack lying next to the corpse and pulls a handwritten letter. It hands it to you. Read it to me, go on, read it. You stare at the ghost, then down at the letter. You slip the pistol into your bag and unfold the paper. This letter means a lot to you, doesn't it? Yes. The ghost says the word quietly, suspiciously. Why do you care about it so much? Do you remember? It's a letter from someone. Someone I knew a long time ago. Look down at the letter and scan it for something that looks like a name. The ink is too smudged to make out the signature at the bottom or the name in the greeting, however. All I can read is some of the paragraphs. You were one of my earliest friends here, and I haven't forgotten all you've done for me. I have a lot of respect for you, and yes, I wondered if we could be more than just friends. You're intelligent, ambitious, and well-connected, but I realize now that I have to follow my heart. I deeply appreciate the kindness you show me and the earnestness that comes with offering me your ring, but I can't. The rest is illegible. Clear your throat and glance at the ghost, who's breathing heavily. It's a rejection, probably for a marriage proposal. If I read it out loud, it's just gonna get pissed and tear me apart again. I don't think you'll want to hear this. The ghost advances toward you and reaches out with its long arms. You can't read it? No, but I can rip it in half. You place your hands on both sides of the letter and make a small tear in the paper. The ghost freezes and lets out a pitiful wailing sound. Don't rip it, don't. It's from me. It's for me, don't rip it. Then let me go. Go then, just go away. Give me back the letter and go away. You toss the letter back into the stomach of the corpse and back away, not turning your back to the ghost. The ghost watches you walk away, muttering the same words to itself over and over. Show it to me. Show it to me. My ring. Where's my ring? You keep walking backwards for about 100 feet until you can round a corner and make a run for the edge of town. Finally, you come to the edge of the city where the grand staircase looms. Broken down carts and wagons, piles of garbage and scattered pieces of clothing are gathered around. You start to climb over it to get to the stairs. As you begin climbing the steps, you run your hand along the left-hand wall and close your eyes again. You're already exhausted, but you can't stop and rest. You can't shake the feeling that something is following you. You've operated a little sleep before, especially down here. It never gets any less miserable. You used to stay awake for 48 hours straight back when you were studying for your entry exams for Itzan. Even once you got in, you found yourself studying for 8 to 10 hours at a time. You lived your life according to clocks, hoping that every hour of study kept you from falling behind your peers. There was something comforting about being able to measure out your life in hours. Everything was orderly. Itzan had clocks in each of the dorms. They were small, intricate little devices designed to wake you up in the mornings. Clocks became part of your life, but you had never grown up with one. You'd grown up in 3 different workhouses, all scattered across the city of Shinkaku. Each time you'd moved, you'd try to start over with a new twist on yourself. You'd want to leave the old you behind. But you'd find yourself slipping back into your old self every time. You got out of the workhouse at 14. You had to do it all again, find different faces, play different roles. Most street gangs want someone stoic and obedient. You had fit in with them fine. When you had started working the streets by yourself, you had to be gregarious and pushy to learn the marks. When you got into the job as a scribe, they had expected you to be curt, professional, and polite. Finally, when you began your apprenticeship as a scholar, you stopped reinventing yourself. You had decided to be who you were, regardless of what people wanted from you. And immediately you found yourself alone. Without the facade to smooth things over, people began to avoid you. The days you spent in your master's library, study weren't lonely though. They were peaceful, and they were all filled with clocks. The solitary life of a scholar had suited you, and eventually you'd begun to think that you didn't need people anymore. Now you realize how much you were deluding yourself. You find sitting yourself in Rue's office again, listening to another lecture. So the most important thing to know about, the most vital thing about the body, is to know that each part of the body, each part acts like a microcosm of our lives. Parts of our flesh are born, they have children, grow old, and then they die. Not literally, of course, but close. Anyway, once a body reaches a certain age, it begins a process of decay called senescence. At first glance, it seems like everything falls victim to senescence. What's interesting is that not all creatures experience it. As Rue goes into detail about the life cycles of animals and humans, we take notes on a small writing desk. Rue's office isn't huge, but it's large enough to fit a wall-mounted chalkboard, her desk, bookcases, your desk, and the large colorful knitted sack that you're sitting in. The sack seems to be filled with beans or rice. It's quite comfortable, but strange to say then. The whole office smells like Rue, chalk, old books, and faint sentiment too. Sitting in the sack, you're almost overwhelmed by it. Suddenly, Rune turns to you with bright eyes. Have you ever seen a lobster? No, not a real life. I mean, a real one. In real life. Rue smiles as you stumble over your words. Honestly, they're disgusting up close, but in theory, they're fascinating. She begins to sketch the outline of a lobster on a chalkboard, starting with the carapace. They can live for hundreds of years and grow to huge sizes. And because they shed their shells, you watch Rue's chalk jump from her lobster sketch to her earlier sketches of the life cycle, fleshing out the diagrams. It's interesting to watch Rue's mind spread out across the board. It's like watching someone knitting a sweater from 3 different angles. As she writes notes on her diagram, the quiet clicking of the chalk and the silence of the room sinks into her mind. The warmth, smell of the books, the rhythmic tapping, evokes a deep sense of peace in your mind. Your gaze falls on a potted plant on Rue's windowsill. It's almost completely black and shriveled with dried up leaves. So even though it can live forever, it doesn't throw the rest of the ecosystem off balance. Does that make sense? Rue turns to you and bites her lip, looking for some sign that she hasn't been rambling. You nod, looking down your meticulously detailed notes. It all fits together like the piece of a puzzle. All of that makes sense. Avoiding senescence doesn't necessarily violate the natural order of life, because immortality is a part of it. Exactly. Rue looks over a chalkboard, seemingly searching for anything that she's missed. Hey, Rue. Rue turns around, her eyes wide and attentive. You can tell that she's expecting a question. Yes? What kind of plant is that? That is a... Rue stops in mid-sentence and begins to squirm a little, looking uncomfortably at the plant. It's a white Methusa. It's supposed to be one of the hardiest plants in the world. It needs almost no water or sunlight. In fact, it can thrive in almost any environment, given the chance. Unfortunately, I still managed to kill it. How did you do that? Rue takes a deep breath and strains her jacket, as if something deters what she's about to say. I never watered it. I did at the beginning, but then I forgot to do it. But if it can thrive in the desert or something... I didn't water it.
for about 4 years.
Oh. Rue stares at nothing for a while, lost in thought. Finally, she seems to realize that you're still looking at her.
Anyway, that should wrap up today's lesson. I hope that was helpful. Let me know if there's any coursework you need my help with.
You flip through your notes from your other classes, looking for the little question marks you left. I did have one question. Rue walks over to your desk and stands next to you, looking down at the page. However, the desk is too low for her to get a good look, so she leans down, propping herself up on the desk with one hand. As she does, you can feel her jacket brush against her arm, as well as her warmth. She smells like ink and that faint mint scent.
So you're having trouble with some functions and series. It's important for regeneration, to gauge growth.
Yeah, I don't understand how it's supposed to work. I can do it one step at a time, but it takes forever.
Well, it's easy once you learn, recognize some of the patterns.
Rue kneels down next to you and takes your stylus, then turns to a blank page. Her face is close to yours, but her eyes are focused on the page. You watch as she writes out the mathematical formula for some equation, one that ranges from 0 to infinity. As she does, her hair brushes against you for a moment as she tilts her head.
Oh, sorry. This is a little cramped, isn't it?
It's alright.
Here.
Rue stands up and walks to the opposite side of her desk, facing you, then spins her notebook around. She starts drawing a grid with a Y and X axes. While her hands glides across the page, you steal a glance at her face. It's almost serene, as her writing on this page is like entering a familiar world.
I was bad at mathematics until I realized that the most of it is intuitive. See, if you look at it like this.
Rue draws a third axis, sticking out at the meeting place of X and Y.
Think about a lobster. How long it is, how wide it is. If you could see it suspended in the air and speed up its whole life, you'd see it growing along these axes. But all the while, you'd be moving along this axis. Time.
Over the next 20 minutes, it all begins to fall into place. 3 dimensions, graphs, growth, they're all abstract labels for something simple. Okay, I quite like the usage of math to gauge, like, regeneration. Because I don't really see, like, some stories that go this route. I kind of don't see them going the mathematical route or explaining in detail. So this is pretty well thought out, I gotta say. Life. This is what life looks like, but written onto paper. Rue beams and puts down the stylus.
Exactly.
She clenches her fists and shakes them excitedly up and down.
You're getting it. You really understand it.
You look up at Rue and grin. Can I do another one? I mean, can I try a different sum equation?
Yes, of course you can. Let me just find my book of formulae.
Rue jumps to her feet and strides over to the door behind her desk, and pulls it open and heads inside. You push back the desk and stand up from the sack, stretching your legs and reveling in your newfound mathematical acuity. You step over to the chalkboard, then look toward the door that Rue disappeared into. You walk over to the threshold and peer inside. For a moment, you glimpse the interior of a room awash in an ocean of papers and books scattered across the floor. Trays and melted candles pepper the room, and anatomy diagrams paper the walls. The windows are shuttered, leaving the whole place shrouded in darkness.
Oh!
Suddenly, Rue appears at the door, holding a book in the crook of her arm. She steps over the door and jam and nearly runs into you. When she raises her face, her nose is inches away from yours. Her eyes widen and she realizes what you were doing. She hurriedly snakes one arm behind her and shoves the third behind her back.
Sorry, it's a bit messy in there. I haven't had a chance to tidy up since the beginning of the year.
Even the half second that you were able to look into the room, the amount of clutter seems like it took months or even years to accumulate. Rue stares back at you, stiff and wide-eyed, her face so close to yours. She seems to be waiting for you to say something. Let's see. Ask her about the book she's holding. What's that book? Rue glances down at the book under her arm. It's about a foot across, square and bound in red leather.
This is my book of formulae. It's where I record all of my mathematical and magical notes, especially for
Rue's talking extremely fast, and you can tell that she's slightly panicked. Right. Should I sit back down?
Yes, that would be best, I think.
You head back to the desk and take up your seat in the sack, then watch Rue flip through her book.
Let's start with this one, the basic.
Rue stops for a moment and her eyes dart to you. She looks back down at the book and sets it on your desk. As she does, you think you see her thumb flip a sheaf of pages to the other side of the book.
Try this one.
You start to work on the formula on a new sheet of paper, feeling the shape of it unfold in your mind. It's different from the ones you've been working on. You can guess what some of it means. Rue, meanwhile, watches from your kneeling position on the other side of your desk, her chin resting on her crooked finger. Her eyes move back and forth between you and the paper, but for the first time you feel some pressure, as if she's testing you. When you're finished, she returns the notebook around and looks over your work. A sly smile spreads across Rue's face.
Do you know what you did?
I just did the formula in the book. Took a bit longer than I expected. Did I do it right?
You did it correctly, but this formula isn't from your course. It's from my research notes.
So, what does that mean?
You just modeled the bone growth of a human adult from 18 to 25. Students 2 years ahead of you can't, well, they have trouble with this. It seems like you're natural.
You're struck with disbelief. You flip back through your pages of notes with new eyes, and you can begin to see the patterns weaving through them. You feel a shiver of excitement as you realize that all it takes is a little effort to put it all together. Paired with a rush of discovery, however, it's a wave of relief as you realize that you're not over your head here. You can learn this stuff, even if it seems hard at first. All you need is a little help and a new mindset. You stand up from your desk, barely able to contain your grin. Rue beams back, trying to bite back her excitement. She reaches out to pat your shoulder, but hesitates before your hand touches you. She retracts it, then offers a handshake.
Well done!
You grasp her hand and shake it gently. Her palm is soft and dusty from the chalk. I can't take all the credit. I'm a great teacher. Rue locks eyes with you. Her face suddenly grows serious and a little melancholy. Her hand slips from yours. Her smile reappears after a moment, but it's more cautious.
Thanks, Zuzel.
Later that day in the training dojo, the rush over your cerebral breakthrough lost some of its luster. Sitting cross-legged on the hardwood floor, you're reminded that not all challenges could be overcome by thinking through them. Once again, You're paired with Izaki. Apparently each junior student is paired with one senior until their first exam. As soon as the opening remarks from Master Izam are over, she strides over to you.
You're going to learn the basic stance today, the twisting tree.
She doesn't waste any time, does she?
Now show me your natural stance, the one you'd use in the fight.
Almost without thinking, you spread your legs apart and crouch down a bit, guarding your face with your clenched fists. Izaki raises her eyebrow and grunts. What?
That's the kind of stance a street thug would use. Walk toward me.
You awkwardly shuffle toward her, trying to keep your distance in place. In 2 steps, Izaki crosses the gap between you and flashes out a punch before you can react. Her nickel stop just shredded her cheek.
Deep stances limit your mobility. I'm going to teach you how to stand correctly.
Izaki takes a few steps back and stands in front of you, then drops her hands to her sides. She raises them to hip level, cocking her elbows back. She crouches down with both feet facing forward, then points both of her feet outward at a 45-degree angle. Finally, she lifts her heels and swings them outwards, so her toes are now pointed inward. It's a strange, awkward-looking stance, and one that seems even less mobile than what you are doing.
Do as I do.
You try your best to mimic her stance, but you feel like you're barely able to stand comfortably. Izaki breaks out of her stance and walks around you in a circle.
Neck straight up, not forward.
You feel her hands strongly move your head back.
Forearms parallel to the ground.
Her fingers lift your arms up.
Bend your legs more.
You crouch down lower until her thighs begin to burn.
Most important, your pelvis should be tilted forward just a little, so your stomach isn't bending in on itself.
You thrust your hips forward a few inches, but it feels like your buttocks are tucked up in your body.
There. Now, keep one foot rooted and turn the other foot outward, so it's parallel with your first foot.
You twist your body to the left and find your body unwinding itself from the awkward stance into a natural one. You feel Izaki behind you. Her hands are on your shoulders, shifting your weight onto your right foot. Next, her hands twist her hips so they face forward, not to the side. Her touch is confident, firm but gentle, as if she were sculpting clay. She uses just enough force to move you. You feel yourself wobble a little as you try to center your weight and align your body. It feels like walking a tightrope. Nope. You feel Izaki push your left hip firmly, and you almost tumble over.
You're too stiff. You have to stop trying to hold yourself up and just find your center.
Try to take up the stance again, but you realize you're pretty much balancing everything on your back foot. You shift your weight to your other foot so it's more equal, but Izaki's already kneeling down, lifting her leg.
The front foot should only barely touch the ground. 90% of your weight is on your back leg.
But how am I supposed to balance on one leg? Izaki stands in front of you and adopts the same stance, where hers is infinitely more graceful in 1,000 subtle ways.
Push me.
You walk over and shove her shoulder, but she rolls it back and keeps her balance. Immediately, she steps forward and delivers a chain of punches to her chest, light, sharp, never losing her balance.
Do like I do. Watch me.
You stand there, feeling clumsy and oafish, as Izaki moves in straight lines, stepping forward and then holding her stance. As you watch, you begin to notice the geometry in her body, from the angles of her legs to the straightness of her back. You also notice the glistening sweat on her neck, the steady rising and falling of her chest, her slow, smooth inhales and exhales. Finally, she stops in front of you, still in her stance. She nods for you to take your stance too. You try your best to balance on your back leg, keep your body held the way she showed you. As you're adjusting yourself, you feel something click. Your weight feels like it's spread more evenly and your back leg feels stable. Izagi takes a deep step closer. Her knee is touching yours, and each of your hands are nearly touching each other's chests. You hold yourself there, staring back at her, feeling the sweat collecting in her spine. Who knew just standing a certain way could be so difficult? But it feels like you're getting the hang of it. Izagi's eyes bore into yours, then run down your chest, to your legs, and all the way to her foot. Finally, her gaze returns to meet yours.
Do you know why we fight on one foot?
No. Why?
So our opponents can't do this.
Izagi twists her body, pressing the side of her knee into yours and effortlessly forcing your leg outwards. You immediately collapse. As you get back onto your feet, Izagi stands over you, looking bored.
You spent your whole life indoors, right? You're not used to your body. You're going to have to change that. Let's work on your breathing. It's annoying, but it's easier to grasp than this.
I want to get the stance right. No, I want to get this stance right. It would but me just give up on it. Izagi raises an eyebrow and grunts.
I can sympathize with that. But if you're going to get that stance right, you'll have to start from the very, very beginning. And that means breathing.
You sigh in resignation. Alright, fine.
You'll get your chance, don't worry.
Izagi stands in front of you, her hands at her sides and her feet slightly apart. She closes her eyes and takes a deep breath. As she inhales, her hands rise up, as if raising cups of water, then turn palm down as she exhales. You watch her chest rise under her uniform, her ribcage swelling until it seems like she's a balloon. Then she deflates, slowly and calmly. She opens her eyes and looks at you, her gaze still fierce.
Now you.
You try to breathe in deeply, but as soon as you reach your peak, you let all rapidly drain from your nose. Izagi grimaces and shakes her head.
No, like this.
She demonstrates again, and try once more to suck in air. This time you hold it in and slowly, painfully let it trickle out.
No, you don't force it. You just breathe naturally.
I am breathing naturally right now. I don't take deep breaths. I'm not going to stop and suck in air during a fight.
It's not about taking deep breaths. It's about learning to control your breathing.
Izagi looks around the dojo at the other training pairs, grabs your wrist and leads you over to the leather bag secured to the wall.
Punch this as hard as you can, as fast as you can.
You square up with the bag and take a deep breath, and start throwing punches one after another. At first it feels good to let loose like this and empty yourself the frustration of training with Izagi. After a while though, your breathing gets shallower and your arms start to ache. You start trying to hold your breath and only suck in air between punches, but soon you feel like you're suffocating. Finally your arms drop and you double over, your hands on your knees, you're gasping for air, and sweat pours down your face. When you stand up again, you find Izagi looking approvingly at you with folded arms.
You lasted longer than I expected, but it's still only about a minute. Fighting puts more strain on the body than anything else. That's when you see how strong you really are. And when you're fighting, the most important thing is breathing. If you have no air in your lungs, then your body has no power. So you have to work on strengthening your lungs. When you finally catch your breath, you close your eyes and inhale deeply through your mouth and out through your nose. Oh, very important. You should be as relaxed as possible when you're doing this, so relax.
You smile bitterly. You can't choose to be relaxed, and you certainly can't do it around Izagi. Still, you try to thinking relaxing things. Sunny days, quiet streams, all of that. You feel Izagi's hands gently press your shoulders down so that they don't rise with your nails. As your mind wanders, you find yourself thinking about libraries, how quiet they are, how peaceful. You used to spend hours sitting at tables with a stack of books, watching the shadows from the windows grow. You feel Izagi's hands pressing on your back and stomach, lightly applying pressure as you breathe in. The force of your breath forces her hands away easily. Now open your eyes and keep that rhythm. You open your eyes and find Izagi standing next to you, and it's still in your chest and back. You can smell the sweat in her clothing and feel her breath tickling your neck. You breathe in and out easily, your mind empty except for the presence of Izagi and the calming rhythm of your breaths.
There, that's it. Nice and easy.
Izagi takes her hands away from you and takes up the stance she showed you before.
Try the stance again, but breathing like that.
You do as she says, lowering yourself into stance and balancing your weight. As you breathe in and out, you feel the rhythm throwing you slightly off balance. You crouch lower and straighten your back, and suddenly feel like you've sat down on a stool. You take a few deep breaths and it feels like chest could expand forever.
There, that's solid.
Izagi walks over to you and pushes your shoulder roughly, but you let your shoulder swing back so as not to upset your balance.
Throw a punch.
You throw a straight right punch and exhale as you do. It feels normal, easy. Izagi kicks at your front shin. Your leg swings out with a blow, then returns to the spot on the floor. You stand up and let the stress off your back leg. You smile as you keep sucking in deep, full breaths and let them out. This feels good. Really good. All I had to do was relax and it all started to make sense. Izagi smiles at you, clenches her fist, and playfully strikes you in the sternum with the heel of her hand.
That'll do for now.
You enter your anatomy class with a thin pattern of sweat still covering your body, but it cools quickly after you take your seat and settle into lecture. You glance around and spot Lee sitting at the back of the class, doodling in her notebook with a bored expression. Master Izam stands up and starts to draw a human skull on the chalkboard. Even after the soul has left the body, retains some ties to it, which allow for the indirect manipulation of the soul. Who can give me an example? Let me see. Initiate Zuni. You look up from your notes and gaze at the skull on the board. Almost immediately, a thought springs into your head. Well, they're skull lanterns. A morbid example, but yes. Would you like to explain, Uzo? Sure. So, when you have a skull, you can inscribe a spell on a dome and light a candle inside of it. Then you can talk to the skull and ask it to show you memories from its life. Those memories will show up as shadows on the wall. Very good. Now, for a more common example. You settle back into your seat, happy with yourself for answering a surprise question and not making a fool of yourself. After a few minutes, something catches your eye, a bit of movement at the edge of your table. When you look over, you find a small origami deer crawling across the table. You pick it up, and it immediately stops moving. When you unfold it, you find a note from Lise.
How did you know about skull lanterns?
You write in the blank space left on the note, trying not to attract too much attention. I used to work in the cemetery as a scribe. Some of the families kept them. You refold the deer and set it on the table. It immediately starts walking back to Lee's. A minute later, returns with a new message. What do you do for fun? You think for a while, then writes, I used to play cards a lot. On a whim, you draw a playing card, the King of Spades. When the deer returns, there's a new sentence along with the drawing of a beer glass. Wanna go drinking with me and some people after class? You pause for a moment before writing back. You can't remember the last time you were invited to something. Back home, you'd had a few friends, but they crashed in and out of your life. You only kept in touch with the people you needed to. Write back one word on this piece of paper. Sure. After class, you pack up your books and head out of the class and catch up with Lise. You find her among a group of 6 other people clustered outside the door, speaking animatedly to another girl. She spots you and pulls you into the middle of the group, patting you on the chest.
And this is Uzo, the grave digger. Right, Uzo?
She looks up at you and gives you a big smile. You feel a grin spread across her face, mostly against her will. You don't know what she's talking about, but her exuberance is infectious. You feel everyone else's eyes on you, waiting for a response. What do I say to that? Let's see. If you call me that, I'm gonna bury you. You glance over at Lise and give her a mock, serious look. If you keep calling me that, I'm going to bury you. Lisa's friends chuckle at you and she slaps on the shoulder, giggling to herself.
I didn't know you had a sense of humor too. Alright, no more waiting. Let's head out, squad.
Lisa leads you across the campus into a labyrinth of buildings until you're walking down a little street filled with fancy shops. Oh, how peaceful times were. It looks so beautiful. Wow, it's like the campus is a little contained city. It's even got its own tailors and restaurants. You knew when you applied to Itsan that it meant spending the next few decades cloistered on the campus grounds. The academy was insistent on students committing themselves fully to their education in immortality. With the exception of the holidays, students were expected to live and study at Itsan. If you missed a semester or try to leave before you graduated, there's no coming back. Still, you hadn't realized how huge the campus really was. No matter which direction you look, paved streets and living buildings seemed to stretch on forever. Eventually, Lee stops and pulls open the door to an upscale tavern with a big glass window. A metal sign with the cutout of a bull and rooster hangs over the door, emblazoned with the name Cock and Bull. And I think I'm gonna end it here for today. But if you're enjoying this video, please leave a like and comment what you think so far. I certainly am liking Izagi and Lee's. Anyways, if you want to watch more of this visual novel, please take a look at the playlist down below. If you want to watch other visual novels, please check my channel down below. Anyways, thank you, and take care.